Hi parents, welcome to the Art Garden. For this week's lesson, I am going to show you some ideas on how to modify last week's lesson on Faith Ringold. I think there's a lot of great possibilities in how you can modify this for preschoolers. But what I want to do first, before I show you these ideas, is I want to talk a little bit about preschool and art and my observations. So my observations by having preschoolers, by teaching preschoolers, and by reading is that preschoolers learn by play. And that is the developmental stage that they're in. So any art project that you do with them, that's an important thing to keep in mind. So for example, if you're doing cutting with scissors, it's play. It's play to them. They're not going to necessarily understand cut out a triangle, cut out a circle. What they're going to want to do is maybe if you have little strips, just cut little strips. Cut different paper. Now, as a preschooler gets older, then the play can become a little bit more work. But it is play. You know, glue, anything, crayons. They're not just seeing what's happening, you know, when the crayon hits the paper. They're also feeling the crayon, feeling the paper. So that's why when you do preschool art, it's important to think about the tactileness of your materials, what you're using, and to make sure it's something that is going to give the kids something to play with. And along with that, being okay that the kids play with the materials and that the project doesn't come out looking like anything presentable. So just a few observations and things to think about for preschool teachers. And I'd love feedback if anyone has more tips or thoughts on teaching preschool. It's something that's very interesting to me, art and preschoolers and where they fit in to doing projects. But anyways, the art garden, there's a lot of the art garden. The Faith Ringold lesson, there's a lot of ways to modify it. The first one is just, here's the project from last week, to give them the little fabric pieces and let them experiment with glue, paper, and fabric. That's the first thing I thought of. And it's sort of the most natural thing that would come out of that lesson, because that way they're getting to use a new material. They're getting to use the fabric and sort of a thick cardboardy type paper. And of course glue. And if they're not ready for glue, you can help them with the glue. You can just let them play with the fabric pieces and arrange them on the paper, depending on the age and depending on their developmental stage. If you have, so that's the first modification. The second one would be is if you have maybe a little older kids that are interested in using scissors. I think cutting fabric is really hard, but you could give them some pretty paper. I got this out of this pad, this American Girl craft pad. This was an expensive pad, but I got it 40% off at Michael's, and we've been using it for like 2 years. It has really, let's see if I can show this, really pretty patterned paper to make, we make cards and we do all kinds of stuff with this. But to use a pretty paper like this and let the kids, the preschoolers, practice, you know, cutting squares or just cutting shapes and then using glue, you know, using glue to glue them down and make quilt patterns. So those were the two things I thought of. One way is if you're in a classroom, one way to display this, if you're in a classroom or you have a large family, is, and this can be done with the other project too, is for every square, then put them all together. You know, glue them all together on one big piece of butcher board and make a large quilt. And you can even make like little X's at the corner. So those are the two things I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about the preschool being developmental and about ways to modify last week's lesson. And the third thing I'd like to talk to you, just a general thing about the art garden, is just to clarify that the art garden has two spaces on the internet. It has the blog, which you're looking at right now, and it has a Facebook page. You know, someday I may find a way to incorporate it all in one spot. But the blog is to view the lessons, and the Facebook page is to post pictures of your children's artwork and for the children to be able to look at what other kids are doing. And I think that's a very important piece about teaching art. The kids learn to talk about art, they learn to write about art. And especially for people who are homeschooling, unschooling, who are not in formal school, this is a great way to get some of your language arts in. To have the kids look at other people's art and write back comments using, art vocabulary. So, and just again for a clarification, if you want, the Facebook page is private. So what you need to do is request to join. It's called The Art Garden. So just type in The Art Garden and then press the button that says request to join. I will add anyone. I just want to have the ability to remove people. That's why I kept it private. Anyone will get added once, and I just, who knows, but I just want that ability. So thank you so much. I hope this is helpful, and I'd like to see what your preschoolers are up to.